The great hall of Aurelian Prime was silent in a way that made even the oldest nobles uneasy. It was not the calm silence of peace, but the heavy silence of history watching. Ancient crystal pillars rose toward the high ceiling, glowing softly with symbols that marked old alliances, forgotten wars, and bonds that had shaped entire star systems. Every species of the Empire knew what this hall meant. Decisions made here did not fade with time. They echoed across generations. At the center of the hall stood Princess Alira of the Vaethari. She was tall and elegant, her silver-blue skin marked with faint royal patterns that shimmered under the light. Her posture was calm, trained since childhood. But inside her thoughts were restless. Today was the bonding selection, a ritual older than her empire itself. Once a bond was sealed, it could never be undone. Around her stood champions from across the galaxy. Towering warriors clad in living armor. Tactical geniuses with cybernetic minds. Noble protectors whose species had served the throne for thousands of years. Each one had trained, fought, and sacrificed for the chance to stand here. And then there was the human. He stood slightly apart from the others, not because he was told to, but because he chose to. He wore no glowing armor, only a simple dark uniform marked with the symbol of the Terran Expeditionary Force. His name was Elias Ward. He was average in height compared to the massive alien warriors, his frame solid but not imposing. His hands rested calmly behind his back, his face unreadable. Many in the hall watched him with unease. Humans were still new to the wider galaxy. They had entered interstellar space later than most, but they did so with a speed that unsettled ancient powers. They adapted quickly, learned faster, and when pushed, they fought in ways that defied prediction. To some, humans were dangerous. To others, they were useful. Very few truly understood them. Princess Alira's gaze returned to Elias, again and again. No matter how hard she tried to focus elsewhere, she did not understand why. The High Arbiter stepped forward, his voice echoing through the hall. Princess Alira, daughter of the Twin Moons, heir of the Vaethari throne. The champions stand ready. By ancient law, you may now choose the one who will be bound to you in life, duty, and fate. A low murmur spread through the crowd. This was the moment everyone waited for. Alira took a slow breath. Her training told her to choose wisely. A bond was more than protection. It was a merging of strength, emotion, and purpose. Her bonded partner would feel her pain, share her danger, and stand beside her until death. She stepped forward. One by one, she walked past the champions. She saw pride in their eyes, hunger for honor. Some looked at her like a prize, others like a symbol of power. A few looked at her with genuine respect. None felt right. When she reached the end of the line, she stopped. She stood before the human. Elias lifted his head slightly, meeting her gaze without fear, without challenge. He did not bow deeply like the others, nor did he avert his eyes. He simply inclined his head in respect. The hall went completely still. Whispers began almost at once. Why has she stopped there? A human? Is this some kind of mistake? The elders shifted in their seats. Generals exchanged sharp looks. No one had expected this. Princess Alira felt her heart beat faster. She had read reports about humans, their wars, their losses, their strange way of forming bonds not through ritual, but through shared suffering and choice. Still, standing this close to one, she felt something she could not explain. Not fear, not certainty. Something quieter, steady. She spoke, her voice clear but carrying doubt she could not hide. Human, she said, using the formal title. Why are you here? Elias answered calmly. Because my people were asked to send someone who would stand for the Empire if the worst came. I volunteered. Volunteered? She asked. You knew the risks of bonding? Yes, he said. I was told it is permanent. Alira studied his face, searching for ambition, desperation, or hidden desire. She found none. Then tell me, she said, her voice softer now, but loud enough for the hall to hear. Why me? The question surprised everyone, including Elias. He paused before answering. Not because he was afraid, but because he chose his words carefully. "I don't believe you are asking why you are important," he said. "I think you are asking why someone would choose to stand beside you without wanting power from it." The hall stirred. Elias continued. "I don't know you well, Princess. But I know what it means to carry responsibility you didn't ask for. On my world, we don't bond by law. We bond by choice. If you chose me, it wouldn't be because you needed a weapon. It would be because you wanted someone who would stay." Alira felt something tighten in her chest. Before she could respond, the High Arbiter raised a hand. "Princess, you must be certain. A human bond is untested. Their emotional resonance is unstable. Their survival instincts are extreme." Elias did not react. He had heard worse. Alira turned to the council. "You warned me this ritual would reveal truth," she said. "Perhaps this is the truth I was meant to face." She looked back at Elias. "If I were weak," she asked, "if my throne fell and my people turned away, would you still stand?" Elias met her eyes. "Yes." No hesitation, no conditions. The hall erupted in quiet chaos. Elders argued in hushed tones. Some looked furious. Others looked afraid. Alira raised her hand, silencing them. "I am not ready to seal the bond today," she said. Gasps echoed through the chamber. "But I will not dismiss him either." She turned to Elias. "Human Elias Ward, you will remain as my provisional guardian. Until I decide." Elias bowed his head slightly. "I will serve." As the hall slowly returned to order, Princess Alira felt the weight of countless eyes upon her. She knew she had defied expectation. She also knew something had changed. Across the galaxy, humans were seen as soldiers, survivors, and wildcards. But for the first time, an alien princess wondered if humanity's greatest strength was not how they fought, but how they stayed. And deep within the ancient walls of Aurelian Prime, destiny had begun to move. The announcement of Princess Alira's decision spread through Aurelian Prime, faster than light, through crystal veins. By the time the great hall emptied, the palace was already alive with whispers, arguments, and fear disguised as concern. Servants lowered their voices. Guards tightened patrols. Advisors rushed to secret chambers. A human standing so close to the future throne was not just unusual, it was dangerous. Elias Ward felt the change immediately. As he followed Princess Alira through the inner corridors of the palace, he noticed how eyes lingered on him. Some were curious, some were cold. A few held open dislike. He walked calmly, his steps measured, his posture relaxed but alert. Years of military service had trained him to notice tension before it turned into action. Alira sensed it too. "You are not welcome here," she said quietly as they passed beneath a glowing archway. Elias gave a small nod. "That much is clear." She glanced at him, surprised by the lack of bitterness in his tone. "Does that trouble you?" "No," he replied honestly. Her lips curved slightly, then flattened again, as they entered a private chamber overlooking the city. Outside, floating towers drifted slowly in the sky, connected by streams of light. This was the heart of the Vathari Empire, old and proud. Alira dismissed the attendants with a gesture. Once they were alone, the silence felt different. Not heavy like the Great Hall, but uncertain. "You understand," she began, "that by naming you my provisional guardian, I have disrupted centuries of tradition." "Yes," Elias said. "And you understand that by doing so, you've made yourself a target." She studied him closely. "Most would try to comfort me with flattery. I'm not most," he replied. "And comfort built on lies doesn't last." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she moved toward the window, folding her hands behind her back. "My people fear humans," she admitted. "They say your kind bonds too deeply, that you fight harder when someone you care for is threatened, that you do not retreat even when reason demands it." Elias leaned against a pillar, keeping respectful distance. "They're not wrong." Alira turned, surprised. "You agree?" "Yes," he said simply. We don't separate duty from emotion very well. When we protect someone, it becomes personal. That is exactly what frightens them, she said. And that, Elias replied, is exactly why humans were asked to join this empire in the first place. Before she could answer, a sharp tone echoed through the chamber. Alira's expression shifted instantly, calm replaced by focus. A security alert flared across the room's holographic display. Inner transit ring breach, an automated voice announced. Unidentified probe detected. Elias straightened. That was fast. Alira's eyes narrowed. Too fast. Guards rushed past the chamber doors. The palace was reacting, but Elias could already feel it. This was not a random incident. This was a test. Stay here, Alira ordered. With respect, Elias said, stepping toward the door. That's a bad idea. She hesitated, then nodded once. Very well. Stay close. They moved through the corridors as alarms pulsed softly. The breach turned out to be small, just a single reconnaissance device, but its presence so deep within palace space was alarming. Engineers worked quickly to disable it, while soldiers spread out to secure the area. As Elias watched, he noticed something others did not. The probe was not transmitting outward. It's not spying, he said. One of the officers looked at him sharply. How would you know? It's listening, Elias replied, waiting for response patterns, mapping reactions. The officer hesitated, then relayed the information. Moments later, confirmation came. The probe had been designed to study how the palace responded to threats. Alira exhaled slowly. Someone wanted to see how vulnerable we are, and how I would react, Elias added quietly. She looked at him. You believe this was aimed at you? Yes, he said. Not to kill, to measure. That night, the palace did not sleep. In the days that followed, Elias remained at Alira's side. Officially, he was a guest. Unofficially, he was under constant watch. Some advisors tried to provoke him with sharp words or subtle insults. Others tested his patience with endless questions about human psychology, loyalty, and control. He answered calmly, always truthfully. What surprised many was how little he spoke about strength or combat. Instead, he spoke about endurance, about rebuilding after loss, about choosing to stand even when no one was watching. Alira listened more than she spoke. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, she finally asked, "Why did you volunteer?" Elias did not answer immediately. The garden lights reflected off the water pools, creating shifting patterns. My unit was destroyed during a border conflict, he said. Not by aliens. By space itself. A miscalculation. I survived. Because someone else stood where I should have been. Alira slowed her steps. I am sorry. So was I, he replied. For a long time. Then I realized survival isn't something you earn. It's something you decide what to do with. She turned to face him. And you decided to come here. Yes, Elias said. Because if the galaxy is going to change, it should change with people willing to protect it, not rule it. Before she could respond, the night air shifted. Elias moved instantly. He stepped in front of Alira just as energy fire cut through the garden, shattering a stone sculpture behind them. Guards shouted. Shields flared. Shadows moved along the perimeter. An assassination attempt. Elias did not wait for orders. He guided Alira toward cover, using his own body as a barrier. His movements were fast but controlled. Every step deliberate. He signaled guards, redirected fire, and spotted attack angles others missed. The attackers retreated quickly, vanishing before full response units arrived. The damage was limited, but the message was clear. This was no longer political tension. It was war in quiet form. Later, in the medical chamber, Alira noticed blood on Elias's sleeve. You are injured, she said sharply. It's minor, he replied. That is not the point, she said. You placed yourself directly in danger. He met her gaze. That is the point. She looked away, unsettled. That night, the council convened an emergency session. Voices clashed. Some demanded Elias be removed immediately. Others argued that the attacks proved the bond's importance. Elira listened in silence. When it was her turn to speak, she stood tall. "You warned me humans were dangerous," she said. "Yet today, the only danger I faced was removed. Because a human stood where others hesitated." The chamber fell silent. "I will continue the provisional bond," she declared. "And anyone who moves against him, moves against me." As the council dispersed, fear lingered, but so did something else: respect. In his quarters that night, Elias sat alone, cleaning his equipment. He knew this was only the beginning. The tests would grow harder, the threats more direct. Across the palace, Princess Elira stared at the stars, her earlier question echoing in her mind. Why him? She did not yet know the full answer, but she was beginning to understand why the galaxy feared humans. They did not need a bond to protect someone. They chose to do it anyway. The palace of Aurelian Prime changed after the assassination attempt. Security became tighter. Corridors once open now required layered clearance. Guards doubled at every entrance. Drones drifted silently through the air, watching, listening. To the public, it was explained as routine caution. Inside the palace, everyone knew the truth. Someone powerful wanted Princess Elira dead, and someone wanted the human removed. Elias Ward felt the pressure like a constant hum beneath his thoughts. Every step he took was watched. Every choice he made was weighed. He did not complain. He did not ask for authority. He simply adapted, the way humans always did. Princess Elira noticed. They stood together on a balcony overlooking the city, the sky painted with distant stars and slow-moving ships. For a moment, the galaxy looked calm, almost peaceful. "It has grown quieter," Elira said. "That usually means people are planning," Elias replied. She glanced at him. "You speak as if this is familiar." "It is," he said. Silence before impact. Elira folded her arms. "The council is divided. Some want to accelerate the bond. Others want to end it before things worsen." "And you?" Elias asked. She hesitated. "I do not know. The bond is ancient and powerful. If sealed too early, it could harm us both. But if not sealed," Elias said gently, "it leaves you exposed." She nodded. "Yes." Before either could speak further, an urgent alert pulsed through Elias's wrist device. His expression hardened instantly. "What is it?" Elira asked. "Multiple energy spikes," he said. "Not inside the palace." "Where then?" Elias looked at the display. "The outer districts. Civilian zones." Elira's eyes widened. "That makes no sense." "It does if the goal isn't you," Elias replied. "It's chaos." Within minutes, reports flooded in. Power grids failing. Transport systems hijacked. Panic spreading through the lower city. Whoever was behind it was forcing the palace to choose protect the princess or protect the people. The council chamber erupted in argument. "This is a diversion. Our priority must be the heir. If the city falls into panic, the throne loses legitimacy." Elira listened, her jaw tight. Then she turned to Elias. "What would humans do?" she asked. Elias did not answer right away. He looked around the chamber. At the fear, the pride, the hesitation. "They would split," he said. "Protect both, even if it costs." The room fell silent. Elira straightened. "Then, that is what we will do." She turned to the council. "Deploy relief forces to the city. Open emergency shelters. And prepare the inner guard for breach." One elder hissed. "You cannot leave the palace." "I am not leaving," she said. "But I will not abandon my people either." Her gaze shifted to Elias. "You will lead the civilian response." Several voices protested at once. "A human cannot command Vathari forces. This is madness." Elias raised a hand. "I don't need command," he said calmly. "Just cooperation." Elias raised a store. Elira nodded. "Granted." Moments later, Elias was moving through the city aboard a rapid response transport. Fires burned below. Systems flickered. People ran in confusion. He coordinated with local units, rerouting aid, sealing damaged sectors. guiding civilians to safety. He moved without hesitation. When a transport rail collapsed, he crossed unstable ground to pull trapped workers free. When a shield generator failed, he helped reroute power manually. When fear threatened to turn into panic, he spoke not with authority, but with clarity. Follow the lights. Stay together. We will not leave you. And they believed him. Back at the palace, the second strike came. This one was direct. Alira felt it before the alarms sounded. A deep vibration ran through the structure as outer defenses failed. Enemy forces emerged from folded space, breaching ancient shields with precision. This was no small faction. This was a coordinated attack. Guards moved to surround Alira, weapons raised. The High Arbiter's voice echoed through the hall. "Princess, we must evacuate you now." Alira shook her head. Not yet. The attackers advanced fast, cutting through defenses with technology designed to counter Vathari systems. One truth became painfully clear. They had studied the palace. They had planned this for a long time. Elias's voice crackled through the communicator. "I'm on my way back. 10 minutes. Alira looked at the burning displays around her. "We may not have 10. As enemy forces pushed closer, panic spread among some guards. The palace had never been breached like this. For the first time in centuries, the throne was truly vulnerable. Then a shield failed. Attackers poured into the inner hall. Alira stepped forward before anyone could stop her. She raised her staff, ancient symbols igniting along its length. Energy flared as she struck down the first wave. But more followed. She fought with skill and grace, but she was one against many. When her strength faltered, someone stepped beside her. Elias. He arrived through smoke and broken light, armor scorched, eyes focused. He did not shout. He did not pause. He simply moved. He placed himself between Alira and the attackers. "Behind me," he said. The enemy hesitated. They had faced alien warriors before. They had planned for royal guards. They had not planned for a human who fought like survival itself depended on every second. Elias used the environment, the fallen columns, the shifting light. He anticipated movements, redirected attacks, forced mistakes. He took hits that would have dropped others, and kept going. Alira watched, stunned. He was bleeding. He was exhausted, and he did not step back. "Elias," she called. "You cannot hold them." "I don't need to," he replied. Just long enough. Something inside her shifted. The bond ritual chamber lay only meters away. Ancient, dangerous, unfinished. Sealing the bond now could save them, or destroy them both. She remembered her question. Why me? Now she had her answer. "Elias!" she shouted. "Turn around." He glanced back just as she began the ritual. Energy surged through the chamber, wild and unbalanced. Symbols flared, reacting not to careful preparation, but to raw intent. The attackers screamed as the energy lashed outward. Elias felt it hit him like a storm. Pain, clarity, connection. He felt Alira's fear, her resolve, her hope all at once. And she felt his. Not his strength, his choice. The bond sealed. The energy stabilized, reshaping itself around them. Not explosive. Not destructive. Steady. The attackers faltered, disoriented by the sudden shift. Guards rallied. The tide turned. When silence finally fell, the hall was broken but standing. Elias dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Alira rushed to his side, ignoring protocol. "You should not have done that," she whispered. "You should not have waited," he replied, smiling weakly. They looked at each other, bound now in truth as much as power. Across the city, systems stabilized. Aid arrived. The attack failed. But the galaxy had seen something new. A bond, not forced by law, not chosen for power, but forged in the moment someone chose to stand and not fall. And that changed everything. Morning light returned slowly to Aurelian Prime, touching broken towers and scorched walkways with gentle color. Smoke drifted upward in thin lines, and repair drones moved like quiet insects across the palace walls. The attack was over, but its shadow remained. Inside the inner sanctum, Princess Alira stood beside a wide window, watching the city breathe again. She could feel it now, every pulse of fear fading, every spark of hope returning. Not through sensors, through the bond. Elias Ward lay on a recovery platform behind her. His injuries wrapped and treated. He was awake, though still weak. The bond had not made him invincible. It had made him connected. "How does it feel?" he asked softly. Alira turned. "Different," she said. "Clearer. As if the noise has settled." He nodded. "That's how it was for me, too. Like everything found its place." Silence followed. Not awkward, not heavy. Just shared. The doors opened. And the High Arbiter entered with several council members. Their expressions were solemn. Their earlier certainty replaced by careful respect. They bowed, not deeply, but sincerely. "The threat has withdrawn," the Arbiter said. "Our scouts confirm their fleets are retreating beyond the system." Alira inclined her head. "And the city?" "Stabilized," he replied, "largely due to the humans' actions." Elias tried to rise. Alira placed a hand on his shoulder, and he stayed still. The Arbiter studied them both. The bond was sealed under extreme conditions. By ancient law, this makes it valid, but unprecedented. Alira met his gaze. "So was the attack. So was our survival." Murmurs spread among the council. One elder stepped forward. "Princess, with respect, the galaxy will not understand this. A human bonded to the Vathari throne changes everything." "Yes," Alira said calmly. "That is why it matters." She turned to the window again, then back to them. "For centuries, we believed strength came from control, from tradition, from choosing what felt safe. Yesterday proved that safety is an illusion." The council listened. "We survived because someone stood where others would not," she continued. "Not because he was commanded, but because he chose to." Her eyes moved to Elias. "I asked him once, 'Why me?' she said. I thought the question was about worth. I was wrong. It was about trust." She faced the council fully now. "I did not choose him because he is human. I chose him because when everything fell apart, he did not ask what he would gain. He asked who needed him." The chamber was silent. The Arbiter bowed deeper this time. "Then the bond is recognized." News spread across the Empire and beyond. Some worlds reacted with shock, others with fear. A few with quiet relief. Images of the damaged palace, the restored city, and the bonded pair standing together filled the galactic networks. Debate followed. Arguments flared. Predictions were made. But one truth could not be denied. The Empire still stood. Days passed. Elias recovered slowly, guided by both human medicine and Vathari healing. The bond eased pain, shared strength, but did not erase limits. They learned each other's rhythms, emotions brushing gently across the connection. One evening, they walked together through the rebuilt gardens. New growth had already begun to rise from scorched ground. "You saved more than a throne," Elias said quietly. "You saved belief." Alira smiled faintly. "So did you." He looked at her. "Do you regret it?" She stopped walking. For a moment, she searched within herself not for duty, not for expectation, but for truth. "No," she said. "I regret that I hesitated." Elias nodded. "Fear does that." They continued walking. At the edge of the garden, a group of young Vathari children watched them from behind a crystal tree. One stepped forward, eyes wide. "Are you the human?" the child asked Elias. He knelt to match her height. "I am." "Are you dangerous?" she asked. Elias smiled gently. "Only if you're in trouble." The child considered this, then nodded seriously. That night, Alira addressed the Empire. Her message was broadcast to every allied world. "We stand at a turning point," she said. "The galaxy is changing, whether we wish it or not. We can meet that change with fear or with courage." She paused. "Humanity is not perfect. Neither are we. But perfection was never what saved us. Choice did." The response was not instant unity. It was something slower, more real. Acceptance. Weeks later, ambassadors arrived from distant systems. Some came to question, some to warn, some simply to see. They found no conqueror. They found a princess who listened, and a human who stood quietly beside her. When asked what role Elias held, Alira answered simply, Guardian. When asked what power humans sought, Elias replied, None we didn't earn. The galaxy adjusted. Threats did not vanish, but they hesitated now. Not because of fear of weapons, but uncertainty. The bond had shown that humans did not need dominance to matter. They needed purpose. On a quiet night, under stars shared by many worlds, Alira stood beside Elias on the palace balcony. Do you still wonder why you were chosen? He asked. She shook her head. No. Now I wonder how the galaxy ever believed humans were weak. Elias looked out at the stars. We're not strong because we endure, he said. We're strong because we don't walk away. Alira reached for his hand, the bond warm and steady between them. Below, the city thrived. Above, the stars waited. And across the galaxy, a simple truth spread from world to world. Humanity did not rise by force. It rose because when everything was on the line, a human stayed. And that was enough.